as you know, I am definitely not a outdoorsy nature person by any means. Like my mom would always say like, "Oh my gosh, if you ever went on Survivor, like you would never be able to survive." I was like, "Obviously, mom, like I would need all of my products, all of my skincare."
I go to the other extreme. I'm like, if there's an apocalypse, I'm going out in the first round.
Yeah, same. But I was in Alaska for 4 months on a contract once, and there is nothing but straight up nature. And so I had like a vendetta against any person that was like, Drew, just come hiking with us. Just come hiking with us. And I was like, no, I don't hike. I just would rather go to like eat some lobsters or crabs like in the crab shack on the dock. But this one time they convinced me to go because it was like hiking to see this glacier on a mountain. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, fine. So we're hiking and I see the signs that say like to Glacier Bay and it gave you like in miles or like however much the distance
Yeah.
was. It was only supposed to be like a half a mile hike to this
Okay.
glacier. And I was like, I can do that. That's fine.
Yeah.
And of course, I still looked fucking fierce because I knew there would be some Instagram photos happening. I would say we hit the half-mile mark. And I all of a sudden am like turning around to my friends that were in the cast with me. I was like, don't you guys feel like this has been like a half a mile already? And they're like, oh yeah, no. Like we've done this before. Like you just keep going. And I was like, okay. Fast forward to like probably about an hour later. And
No.
we are hiking. I mean, this isn't hiking. This is like rock scaling. At some point, I was like, you guys, I'm done. This is not okay.
Send the helicopter.
Yeah, like, how do we get back down? I want to go home. And they're like, Drew, it's just a little bit more. And I was like, okay, but we've like a little bit moored a long time
Right.
ago, like a mile down
Right.
when it was only supposed to be half a mile. Well, come to find out, we completely missed the turn. We got to the top of this mountain in Alaska that was like, I tell you, Danielle, like the views were stunning, obviously, but like at the end of the day, I never got to see no fucking glacier.
No.
And I swear to God, I didn't even take one goddamn photo for Instagram because I was drenched in sweat. My like dirt was on my face. My hands were like covered in cuts from like rock climbing. My friend who was leading the hike was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. I was like, nope.
Were they just not telling you because they were worried you'd freak out?
No, genuinely, I think my friend who was leading the trail missed the turn and then he just kind of like acted like this was all correct.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
kidding you. I was rock climbing a mountain in Alaska and my friend was like,
Oh
I'm so
my
sorry. I was like, nope. Don't even say a goddamn word to me because I didn't want to do this in the fucking first place. And here I am looking for cameras thinking that I'm being punked because I don't even hike. And we were stuck
my
at the
God.
top of this mountain. And I was like, great, so how do we get down? And my friend was like, I don't know. This is the start of one of those movies where like you just get lost in the
Yeah.
fucking mountain in Alaska. And then we missed the cruise ship because we have a
Yep.
fucking all aboard that's coming up in about an hour. So we had to scale the mountain back down and eventually find the trail. And lo and behold,
my gosh.
we just like literally missed the one sign that says Glacier Bay this way. And after that moment, I will never, ever hike again. Ever.
So
It was
this episode
terrible.
definitely made you
This,
think of...
yeah, this episode was definitely a little bit of a trigger. 3, 2,
Hi, Dee.
Hi, Dee. Before we start every episode, we like to share a vintage cocktail from my grandpa's little black book, all his own recipes from his days of owning a bar in Detroit in the 1940s.
So what is our drink today from your grandpa's little black book?
Today's drink is called the Orange Blossom Cocktail. You first frost the rim of the glass with powdered sugar. It's 1 ounce of orange juice, 1 dash of orange flower water, which I didn't have, so I just suggested using orange flavoring into water, and you mix it together. So 1 little dash of that, 1 ounce of gin, you put into a mixer, shake it up, and pour it out into the glass with the powdered sugar. And in my opinion, I love this because we picked oranges for California.
Okay, ready to get into it?
Let's fucking do it! Hi everyone! Welcome to the Forensic Files Duo podcast, where we recap, review, and provide updates on the cases featured on the true crime TV show Forensic Files. I'm Drew, and I knew nothing about true crime until we started this podcast.
And I'm Danielle, and True Crime raised me.
If you're listening to us for the very first time and want to hear more about our friendship and how we became the forensics duo many moons ago, head over to episode 1 for the whole backstory.
But to summarize, our high school had a forensics team, and we competed in the duo category. It had absolutely nothing to do with science in the slightest.
As a duo, two people perform a scene from a play. You can't look at each other, touch each other, or use props outside of chairs or stools. Then you take it to competitions and compete against other schools.
But after years of the rest of the world assuming we were solving crime as this forensics team, we figured, why don't we just fully lean into it? And the podcast was born.
Podcast was born on Halloween.
Yeah, very fitting. Now for our regular disclaimer, we understand that we will be discussing a lot of sensitive topics, so although we may laugh at times, please remember that we are laughing at ourselves and ourselves only. We are not making light of what the victims and their families have gone through and may continue to be going through.
And in an effort to use the public's overall interest in the show Forensic Files and leverage the power of digital media, once the episode coverage is over, we will highlight a missing person that's currently on the Black and Missing Foundation's website.
Today's episode is listed on Wikipedia as Season 14, Episode 15, called Trail of a Killer, and it takes place in 2003 in Concord, California. According to the cityofconcord.org, in 2003, Concord was a growing suburban city in the East Bay region in the San Francisco Bay Area. It was known for its family-friendly neighborhoods, relatively affordable housing compared to cities like San Francisco and Oakland, its role as a commercial hub in Contra Costa County, and known for the presence of the Blue Devils Drum and Bugle Corps.
Bugle Corps!
17-time world champion.
Work, Blue Devils.
Ask me if I ever in my wildest dreams thought I'd be talking about another drum and bugle corps on this podcast. The things this show is teaching us is sometimes just like the most absolutely most useful information.
Right. We are brought back into the life of color reenactments and find out that a woman has been murdered in broad daylight. This is the kind of stuff that I'm actually freaked out about, even though I love me some scary movies. But when you're out doing a hike or walk, which obviously you all know that I don't do because I hate nature and dirt, but I do actually sometimes get scared that someone is going to jump out of the bushes and grab you and kill you. It's very real, very real fear.
Very real.
But while cell phone records and search dogs provided a good amount of leads on this case, but if it wasn't for some crafty police work and a chance encounter, the entire investigation could have gone up in smoke.
We have an individual that's still out walking about who can do this again.
I don't know how much scarier it can get.
During her lunch break, Kathy Loreck went for a walk, as she often did, along a jogging trail near her office. It was something that she did on her own, as her own kind of meditation throughout the day, which I totally get. We see reenactment Kathy walking on this trail, and they have a lot of extras on this trail. So it really does seem like a very well-traveled trail, and nothing a woman should not be safe walking on during the day or at any time. But that's a whole other discussion men in our society aren't ready to have yet. We are told that sometimes she would use that opportunity to also make some personal phone calls.
This is where we find out a little bit more about Kathy. She was an executive secretary, married, and with children. On the day that she was married, she spoke with her husband who was in Europe on a business trip, which right now, at this moment when I'm watching it, is already, in my opinion, giving me red flags. And also someone who we never meet or hear from, the husband. So that was a little bit odd for me. But a lot of fast moving shots of her walking, then maybe seeing someone in the bushes. I don't know. It felt very fast for us as viewers to understand that this is the time that when she gets killed. But while being on the phone, her husband reported that suddenly she made a loud groan or gasp, and then the phone went dead. Kathy's husband knew immediately something was wrong and called her coworkers and asked them to look for her. Well, they couldn't find her, and then her friends decided it was time to call the police.
And the police got there within minutes. And then about 20 minutes later, a police officer on a cute little scooter saw what looked like streaks of blood. The blood was like somebody had taken a paintbrush with red paint and simply drawn lines on the ground. Like you see somebody just like dripping paint and drawing with a paintbrush on concrete. And they are absolutely not wrong. The reenactment got these paint strokes down perfectly when we see the actual crime scene photos. The officer followed the blood trail down an embankment to a heavily wooded area, and that is where he found Kathy Loreck barely alive in a pool of blood.
With the way her clothes were arranged and disheveled, that she'd most likely been sexually assaulted and that she needed immediate medical attention.
Kathy was rushed to the hospital, but sadly she died en route. She had several major lacerations on her head. They believe that the weapon that was used to kill her was from a fence post nearby the path, which they believe was to be about 2 to 2.5 feet long. We recently met Detective Finney, which thank God for the title markers, unlike the last episode, so now I can finally follow along. But he was the one to call Kathy's son and sadly tell him that his mom had died. But why, in my opinion, why didn't the dad do this? and that was like a big question for me when I was seeing this. Like, where was the dad in all of this? Anyways, Kathy was using her cell phone when the attack occurred. Investigators couldn't find it anywhere in the area near her body.
Actually, it's really sad. The dad, he was 84 when this went to trial. So, like, her ex-husband,
Yeah.
he passed away, I think, like the day before sentencing or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's probably
Oh,
why.
yeah.
The son was already an adult. When police checked her cell phone records, they discovered someone had used her cell phone after her murder. So they called one of the numbers that this phone had called in recent time, and the person told investigators that it was a man, Juan Sanchez, that had called them. Investigators tracked 23-year-old Juan Sanchez to his residence, and there they found Kathy's cell phone in his possession. And it's stuff like this that are the reason that I love technology.
Agreed.
But Sanchez claimed he found the phone on the jogging path. He explained that he was riding his bike on the canal trail, and while he was riding his bike, he found the cell phone. He decided to use it for his personal use, and then Sanchez showed police exactly where he found the phone. Remarkably, it was just 50 feet from Kathy's body. Police originally think that there is only one individual who could have had that cell phone. It had to have been the individual who attacked Kathy. But Sanchez denied he was the killer and denied seeing blood on the trail near the cell phone.
Investigators knew right away this would not be a routine murder investigation.
This was shocking. We're talking about a woman close to her office going for a walk on a trail frequented by many people in broad daylight.
Family, friends, and even police were stunned by the sheer audacity of Kathy Loreck's murder. And then we see a lot of which, in my opinion, seemed like white privileged citizens talking about the sheer shock of the murder happening in their neighborhood. And actually some lady has the audacity to just say, I still want to walk. I mean, come on. Like, someone was just killed and you're worrying about getting your steps in? Really?
Police do say that there was an encampment of several dozen unhoused people just a quarter mile from the trail, which could mean a random attack was a real possibility. Locals had been concerned about this on that trail previously, and a lot of people thought it wasn't safe to go on that trail. But that was definitely not the only possibility. There are numerous access and exit points on this canal trail, either by the public roadways, by individuals using adjacent fields, and access gates. The murder weapon was a broken piece of metal fencing, and that's when we're told that the perpetrator actually broke off a piece of metal fence post, and it appears that they waited for her to return from her walk on her way back and then dragged her off the trail. Listen, every single woman I know has experienced a fear of something like this happening to her. And this whole case reminded me of a story in college. Okay, ready for some story time?
Yes, tell me.
I can't believe I didn't tell you this before. And it's something that I kind of forgot because my best friend Aggie and I were walking home from a bar, and she actually recently reminded me of this when we were talking about those 4 college students who were murdered in Moscow, Idaho. Do you know about that case?
No.
Oh, well, it's going to hit the news again here soon because the man charged with the murders, he's going on trial soon.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's this year. Well, we were talking about that case and how we couldn't stop thinking about those poor college students and how much like we could relate to them. And that's when she brought up this incident, and I truly had stored it away in a deep corner of my memory. Okay, so just some context at the top. At Michigan State University, where I went to college, there was a country bar that was off campus just by like a few blocks. And they sometimes had like an 18 and up night. And this is at a time Aggie and I weren't 21 yet, and we still lived in the dorms. So when you lived in the dorms, MSU would provide a service called the Night Owl, and it was a little shuttle bus that would pick you up anywhere on campus and take you home until about 4 a.m.
Wow.
It was, so it was probably established for like late night study sessions, but it was truly a taxi for drunk kids to get home safely.
Yeah.
Well, we had to get back onto campus to get the Night Owl to pick us up. And between this bar and the campus was a baseball field. The sidewalk followed along the baseball field. But you know the catcher's box area, which I had to Google because I didn't know what it was called. So don't even give me any kind of like cred that I like know what that was called. So there's the catcher's box, and it's that corner of a baseball field that has like really high fences, right?
Yeah.
So the sidewalk followed along the baseball field. It started at the end of the field, and as you walk, that sidewalk, you're walking along the fence, and then eventually you enter a tunnel of trees, and it's completely covered until you get onto campus.
Creepy.
Like there's a dorm around the corner. So Aggie and I were walking. I have no idea how my eyes caught this, but I see a shadowy figure standing on the top of the extremely high fence right before you enter the tunnel of trees. It reminded me of the scene in Jeepers Creepers 2.
Creepers.
Is that what you first thought of?
Yes, it was the first, yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what it was like. Jeepers Creepers, it's like he's standing on the highway sign looking at an abandoned school bus. Yes. So that is kind of giving you an idea of like what I'm seeing right now. It was the perfect silhouette of a man. I looked down, and as casual as I could, I like grabbed my phone and I typed 911. And I quietly said to Aggie, don't look up yet, but there's a man up on the fence.
No.
Yeah. And so we're walking and we kind of start talking through things, and like everything's like running through my mind of like, okay, what do you do? What do you do? Because the thing is they kind of want to catch you when you're distracted.
Right.
So we decided to go with a tactic of let him know we know he's there. And so we got loud and we kept looking back at him and we were like, we see you. We see you. I actually had to text her to like, am I remembering this all right? And she's like, yeah. Because she's like kind of short. I was like, I saw him first, right? Like I'm going back in my memory, making sure it's serving me correct. She's like, yeah, well, like I'm not used to like seeing what people at normal height see. So that was definitely you who saw it.
Yeah.
And so like we were just like, okay, like what do we do? So that's what we did. And we chose that route of it. Cause like if we had run back to the bar was closed. So there was no one around. It's a really isolated area. And maybe we should have gone that route. And or maybe, I don't know. We were like, once we hit those trees, run.
Right.
And so the second we went into the tunnel of trees, we booked it. Like I have never ran so fast in my life. And I like Aggie kept up with me. I don't think she like was with her little legs. She had to like run like double time. Yeah. But I don't like know if that was like the safest route. Cause like what do you do in that situation? You're in an isolated area and you see someone who's high up. So I'm like, I see you. So we just made our stance. Like we made it known like, hey, we see you. And we just kept looking back until we hit the trees and we booked it because I wanted him to know, like, we have you clocked. And so if you try to get us by surprise, it ain't going to work. And there's two of us. And 911 was already like hit on my phone. Like I was ready to go. I think back now and I'm like, I probably should have called 911 even like the next day and been like, hey, this weird thing happened. Like maybe just add patrol right there. But I never heard that anything happened. But like it was so freaky.
Do you think it was an actual person?
Oh, I never considered it was
like a spirit or something?
No, I never even considered that.
Oh, that's where like my mind went for this.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, because, I immediately was like serial killer.
Well, because he's sitting on top of the fence, right?
He wasn't sitting, he was standing. But it's a chain link. So it's a chain link. So it's got like a round top. It's not like it was barbed wire. But it looked like he would like jump down to then attack someone in those trees right there. Like if a drunk girl was leaving the bar by herself. That's what it looked like to me. I know. I just think back and I'm like, what would I tell my daughter Holland, to do in such a situation? Like that's how I think of it now. But it makes me so mad because like this is the world we live in.
I think for sure tactics now these days should just be call 911 because
for sure call 911. Like for sure call 911. Don't even hesitate.
Don't hesitate.
Don't even hesitate. And that's the one thing I would do differently is I would have called 911. But there is a very high chance Aggie and I weren't completely sober. And like I said, we weren't 21.
Right.
We were probably more scared too of like, which should not be the case. Like if you need help, you need help. Okay, back to the show. So they find the murder weapon and there was blood, but no prints on it. Kathy's autopsy confirmed that she had been sexually assaulted.
We then see a reenactment with a lot of fierce-looking neon lights for the lab to have, which kind of looks like my bedroom because I love me a colored light vibe. Anyways, we find out that the DNA profile from Kathy Loreck's rape kit didn't match any in the statewide DNA database of known criminal offenders. It didn't match Juan Sanchez either, who is the suspect that found Kathy's phone and stole it.
He appeared to be very truthful to us. He didn't have any trouble answering our questions. And he volunteered to take a voice stress analyzer test, which he took and passed.
I had to look this up because I have never heard of this test. This is a little true crime class time for the both of us, Drew.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. According to the National Institute of Justice website, a voice stress analyzer test or computer voice stress analyzer is a technology used to analyze a person's voice patterns to potentially detect deception, based on the idea that stress manifests as changes in vocal patterns.
Ooh.
However, it is widely considered a pseudoscientific technology because it lacks robust scientific evidence to support its claims of accurately detecting deception, with studies showing it's no better than chance. Voice stress analysis focuses on vocal characteristics to detect deception, but a polygraph polygraph, which we all know is a lie detector test.
Right.
That uses sensors attached to the body to monitor physiological responses like heart rate and perspiration.
Interesting.
So, just a little info.
In a search for suspects, police rounded up everyone who was on or near the trail at the time of the murder. Some were homeless people, others were joggers and bikers. About a half a dozen of them told a story that was very consistent.
Witnesses had seen a male standing at the fence line looking into the canal and talking about little fishes in the canal and drawing attention to this as people were walking by. And this person seemed like they were out of place. Two of these potential witnesses were sent to police sketch artist Gil Zamora. And what a name. Gil
Zamora. Well, Zamora decides to do some sort of what sounds like hypnotherapy or meditation, and then has them describe the person that they saw.
I asked them the question, if you saw him again, would you recognize him? They say yes, then I know that I can draw the sketch.
Eventually, the two drawings were drawn by Zamora from the witnesses who, let's note, neither one of them had spoken with each other before going into this session. Both sketches were identical, minus one of them saying that the suspect wore sunglasses. After this, they definitely thought that both witnesses were describing the same person.
Then police get a huge break. Investigators using K-9 teams identified a potential lead. They were able to track a scent trail to a residential area in Concord that was very close to the canal trail. A background check revealed a man living in this neighborhood had a criminal history. And he looked similar to the composite drawings, which is just great police work in my opinion. His name was Mark Fisher, and prosecutor John Cope tells us that he was known to be violent. Violent to his relatives, police officers, and to other authoritarian figures. Witnesses in the park were also shown a photo lineup which included Fisher's picture, and at least 3 of the witnesses were positive that the photo of Mr. Fisher was the subject that they had seen on the trail.
But when investigators went to Fisher's house, they got some shocking news. The police were met by a relative of Fisher's who told them that Fisher had actually killed himself by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge less than 24 hours after Kathy's murder.
It was our belief that after the assault, that he felt remorse, that he felt guilt, and he just couldn't live with what he had done.
A search of Fisher's room seemed to confirm his role in the murder. They found a pair of sunglasses similar to the type of sunglasses seen in the sketch. They seized some clothing that appeared to have bloodstains on it and noticed that a newspaper in the house was open to an article about the murder. And even a picture of the suspect's sketch was there. The circumstantial evidence clearly pointed to Mark Fisher as the killer. Then Peter asks us if the forensic evidence would agree. I don't know, Peter. You tell me, Peter. So here's a quick recap. The man who found the cell phone on the trail took a voice lie detector test and passed, even though it's junk science anyway.
The real science proved that that guy's DNA was not a match to the murderer's DNA profile, and he was let go.
Police then track a scent to a nearby neighborhood of where a violent man named Mark Fisher lived.
But they find out 24 hours after Kathy's murder, Mark jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge.
The evidence they find consists of sunglasses matching the eyewitness testimony, several eyewitnesses choosing his picture from a photo lineup, and bloody clothes. This makes investigators feel certain that Mark Fisher was the man who sexually assaulted and murdered Kathy Loreck along the jogging trail.
After Fisher's suicide, scientists took a DNA sample in the morgue and compared Fisher's DNA profile to the biological evidence from Kathy Loreck's rape test kit. And get this, it wasn't a match.
We strongly believe that Mark Fisher was responsible for Kathy's death. All of a sudden, he's not.
Well, that just made everyone get real pissed off because this meant that there was still someone out walking about who could probably do this again. Back to the drawing board they go because they had to start all over again.
Yeah, and just a little bit more context. There's a podcast I'm going to link in the show note that did a really great deep dive into this case as well. And there's a big section about how the press really took this over. And so I just want to consider that family that had just lost their son, their brother to suicide, and they were grieving him. And literally the next day, he is being accused of this horrific crime.
Yeah.
And this family did everything to try to help their loved one struggling with mental illness. This is just so horrible to then have to deal with being accused of this and all that. And that even the dad took a lie detector test. I mean, he was really trying to salvage his son's name. And so I just want to point that out because Forensic Files doesn't talk on that. And that's another victim of this piece of shit that actually was the murderer. So with a killer on the loose, investigators instituted a DNA dragnet of all the unhoused men in the area who had a violent criminal history. They began contacting everybody that used the trail, all the transients that they knew of, and a total of 42 DNA profiles were tested against the killer's DNA. And we meet Sherry Holes, the criminalist. And listen, all I want to know is this the wife of the world's favorite cold case investigator, Paul Holes? I say this with all due respect for her, and not to take away her moment here. She's a badass in this episode, and honestly, the way she speaks about handling this case makes me think she definitely has the kind of energy that would match Paul's and his drive to get justice for his victims. But also, he worked in Contra Costa County, and his wife's name is Sherry. So this has to be her, right?
It has to be right.
Drew, I know you don't really know who the hell I'm talking about.
I don't.
Okay.
I really don't.
All the true crime listeners here, they know exactly who I'm talking about. And if you are listening, please find the answer for this for me, because I've gone down too many other rabbit holes on this case already. But if it is, wow, this is a true crime crossover moment that I never saw coming. I listened to a bunch of Paul Holes' podcasts too. I'm a Uber fan.
Okay.
And yes, I 100% recognize how much of a nerd I look like right now. But Drew, if you knew what Paul Holes means to the true crime world, you would get it.
Okay, well, I guess I'm going to look it up.
I'll give you a little idea. So he was the investigator who finally caught the Golden State Killer. The Golden State Killer is also known as the East Area Rapist or the original Night Stalker.
Oh.
This man committed 13 murders, 51 rapes, and 120 burglaries. Those cases still haunt my thoughts to this day. And Joe D'Angelo was finally caught after 40 years.
Oh my God.
40 years. Yeah, and it was Paul Holes who did it. Okay. And so Joe D'Angelo, he's 72 now. So yeah, he was arrested in 2018. And I swear that was the Super Bowl for the true crime community.
Whoa.
It was such a big deal. So yeah, his platform really took off at that point.
Okay.
But I'm wait, is this Mrs. Holes? What?
That would be cool, though.
I tried looking it up real quick, and then I got real tired and was I need to stay focused. So I don't know if it is, but what are the chances, right? Anyways, okay, fangirl moment over. But Baddie Sherry here says that this was actually the most referenced samples that her laboratory had ever tested. And after all that work, oh my God, I don't have the energy to match what I'm about to say because there were no hits. I had so much energy, and that's such a letdown after just really building up this section of the podcast with all that excitement about Sherry Holes. Sorry about that, guys, but no, there was no hits.
Then 9 days after the murder, investigators got a potential break. A mountain biker who, not gonna lie, whoever this actor they had play this mountain biker was very attractive, but also, in my opinion, did not look like a mountain biker at all from what they had dressed him in.
No, and I thought the exact same thing. Oh gosh, I have another story, but this is really funny.
Okay, go.
So Blake is a big mountain biker, and I have no idea how someone could smoke
Yeah.
after or while doing mountain biking. I have no idea, because you're in California, so it's not a little trail. And I tried that sport when I first moved to Georgia. So if we're going to start talking about going out in nature, I have a story for you. Oh my God. Blake and I had only been dating for 6 months, and I was still trying to be I'm a cool girl. I can do cool things. Total pick-me girl vibes, I'm sure. But so I really tried to convince the both of us that this was a hobby we could do together. But not only was I riding his old bike that's sized for a 6-foot man, okay, I was white knuckling it, praying the Our Father down every mountain, because they were not Midwest hills that we call mountains here in Michigan. No, these are real mountains. I don't know what I was trying to prove to him or to myself, because side story, I had gotten ran over by a bike when I was 7. God, side story to the side story. So I don't like people riding their bike behind me still to this day. And anyways, I would have never been able to keep up with them. So I was you go ahead. This was the first time I go out with Blake on the trails. I'm you guys go. I will keep up if I don't, whatever. And just don't let me don't let me be a bummer, I really I can hang. So anyways, so I was following behind him and some of his friends, and not even 5 minutes in, my front tire hit a big old stone in the ground. I lost control of the bike. I drove right into a tree. But when I tell you, I hit the smallest baby tree that there was barely the size of my tire. I'm not exaggerating. I could not have hit a smaller tree trunk if my life depended on it. It was so embarrassing, because then the baby tree was so strong. It was a strong little mighty tree. It completely stopped my bike, and I flew over the handlebars. I belly flopped onto the trail, which was like littered with little rocks sticking out of the dirt like spikes. Like it was in the dirt. That was the path. And I just like, I swear I belly flopped. I had cuts like from my forehead to my ankles.
We're not nature girlies.
Oh my God. No, not one bit. And to this day, I am so surprised that I like didn't get more seriously injured from such a dramatic way of falling off of a bicycle. How? Because then Blake eventually realized like that I was missing, and he comes and finds me, and I was like peeling my body off of the ground,
wiping your hair, like, yeah, no, I'm good.
I swear to God, I finished the ride. That's exactly what I did. So no one can ever say I don't love that man, because like once we got engaged, I was like, you should know.
Don't ever bring me on a mountain bike trail again.
I'm done. I got the ring. I actually hate this.
Anyways, this mountain biker called police to say he recognized the man in the composite sketch. He had apparently seen him on the jogging trail on the day of Kathy's murder. This mountain biker pulled off to the side of the trail and was smoking when a man approached him whom he never got the name from and asked for not one but 2 cigarettes, and then proceeded to have small talk with him. I'm sorry, but like if you're going to wait and have conversation with random man who you give 2 of your cigarettes to, I'm going to probably find out a little bit more info about who this person is, because if not, then I just would give a cigarette and like let him be on his way if I'm feeling generous. And I probably shouldn't even be smoking to begin with, because hello, like just what happened, the LA fires, like are you not thinking properly? Like where are you going to throw that
No.
cigarette butt? Like
he's mountain biking and smoking, so no, he's not.
Yeah,
thinking
clearly.
properly.
Anyways, the police then ask, where did the smoking break take place?
It was within maybe 200 yards of the crime scene, and he pointed right to the ground and said, "Those are the cigarettes that we were actually smoking."
Wild.
This is
Yeah,
wild. 9 days had passed, and analysts were skeptical about getting DNA from them, certainly because it's been sitting outside, it's been exposed to UV light, or possibly rain, mud. So the more elements it was exposed to, the harder it would be to develop a DNA profile. And I assume this could be also heavily challenged in court. But the cyclist also provides an important piece of information.
This chain-smoking mountain biker did deliver a big piece of information that he learned about from the conversation that he had. He said the man that he met told him that he worked as a telemarketer in nearby Walnut Creek. Bingo! A background check revealed there was only one telemarketing firm in Walnut Creek. When the police go to this telemarketing place and ask the manager, he says,
You're looking for Robert Frazier.
He had gotten into some trouble. He had committed some robberies. He had spent time in prison. He had committed some very violent assaults in prison and was back out on the street. They tell us he was a drifter. May have spent time in Chicago, Indiana, as well as Contra Costa County in California.
This man's co-worker said that he looked exactly like the hypnotherapy meditation ritual sketch that was done earlier, but however, they said that he quit his job around the same time of Kathy Loreck's murder. Police ended up visiting Frazier's last known address and found his ex-girlfriend, who, in my opinion, just got like a fresh face of Botox. At least the actress that was playing this role did. But anyways, this ex told the police that he left town a couple weeks ago and she hasn't seen him since. But the ex was smart enough to hand over a parting gift to the police, his toothbrush, which they hoped would be the forensic answer that they were looking for.
So a little bit more context again from that podcast is it was actually 4 months later, because at the same time that they were investigating all these different people and going through all these different DNA tests, they had interviewed and gotten the cigarettes 9 days after. However, after that is when that other suspect, Mark Fisher, came into play. They were waiting for DNA test results to come back. So there's time here now that Forensic Files doesn't really present. So there's actually like 4 months happening between the murder and now going to this ex-girlfriend's apartment.
Okay.
So then I was like, wait, 4 months later, you have no idea where he's at and you still got his toothbrush? Girl,
Right.
What were you waiting for?
Yeah.
So now police had a suspect in the sexual assault and murder of Kathy Loreck, Robert Frazier. Sherry Holes is back, and she tells us that she felt that if it could happen to this victim, it could happen to anybody. So she felt that she really wanted to do her best in working hard on this case to help catch this individual. And she is telling us what every woman feels when they hear cases like this. It is so important for women to be in roles like hers, because I really believe perspective is so important to have when investigating these crimes. crimes. Fortunately for the scientists, it hadn't rained on the cigarette butts. They were able to generate a DNA profile and compare it to Kathy's rape kit. And the person who had smoked the cigarettes was Kathy's killer. And I want to include one more thing is that I heard on the podcast, the only reason they tested Mark Fisher's DNA, the first suspect that they thought it was who had committed suicide, they did it as a formality. So when they got the results back like a couple weeks later, they were shocked. So that's why there's this gap. They had to go back to the cyclist and ask, like, we need you to rethink about everything you talked to that guy about and tell us, is there anything that stuck out? That's when the telemarketing tip came in.
Got it.
And that's when they tested the cigarette butts. So they had been sitting in evidence and then they tested. So now we're getting all this timeline of like lining up. Yeah.
Okay.
So good thing they did do all the testing. So it's like, okay, this DNA testing, like it's vital
Right.
because humans cannot judge, based on like just piecing circumstantial stuff together.
Scientists then compared the DNA on the cigarettes to the DNA on Frazier's toothbrush. This is actually the gross part. The toothbrush actually contained DNA from at least 3 individuals, male and female DNA. Who was using this toothbrush and why do they not have their own? But they were able to see from the mixture of DNA that Frazier's was in that cesspool and they got excited. But most importantly, scientists also discovered Frazier's DNA from skin cells on the bloody fence post found near Kathy's body.
Finding Robert's DNA on that fence post, which was the murder weapon, was very important.
The DNA evidence established a credible eyewitness who saw the murderer in person on the day of the crime at the location of the crime scene. So that puts my worries at ease of this being heavily challenged evidence in court. Boom, they got him. But where is Robert Frazier? Police entered Mr. Frazier's name into the National Criminal Offender Database, known as NCIC. We are big fans of these databases. And this is how they discovered that he was being held on a criminal charge in the state of Indiana. And I found out, because I couldn't not find out, my brain does not allow me to. I found out he was there for like battery charges and on probation for battery and I believe sexual assaults. A cop had saw the car and ran the plates and then he was arrested right there. They knew that his probation officer was looking for him, so they kept him in jail.
California police immediately flew to Indiana to question Frazier. And in my opinion, the video of him being interviewed is super creepy because all you just see him doing is laughing and it's like he's not nervous at all. But Frazier admitted he heard about Kathy Loreck's murder on television, but the dumbass slipped up and revealed a piece of information that only the killer would know. But it wasn't until investigators told Frazier they found his DNA on the murder weapon and on Kathy Loreck's rape test kit that he now decides to change his story.
So that piece of information that Robert Frazier let slip was when he was describing from, seeing her on TV, he mentioned freckles. Here's the thing though, and Forensic Files doesn't talk about this. Forensic Files lets you think that it's like freckles on her cheeks. It's actually freckles between her breasts. Yeah. So unless you're intimate or see her bare-chested, you ain't gonna see those freckles.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was a huge giveaway. And it's horrifying that that's what he brought up because that's just so sad and so disgusting. So the only thing that Robert was able to come up with is, well, maybe he was down there in the tree line area where Kathy's body was found previously and that he had urinated in the area. And that would be the only way. Okay, sure, Bob. This is what prosecutors believe. Kathy was walking along the jogging path, talking to her husband on the cell phone, when Frazier first saw her.
Frazier chose Kathy as his victim because he saw no one nearby in either direction.
Then he struck her with a piece of metal fence post.
He quickly dragged her from the jogging trail down the ravine, where he sexually assaulted her.
Afterwards, he struck her several more times in the head and left her for dead.
Gross. I just honestly don't get how someone could do something like this, especially like on a clear sunny day, and absolutely no one sees it.
No one.
Truly, I've never like had anger. I mean, I've had like, I've been upset, and like this one actually made me mad because the fact that this happened in broad daylight and no one sees it, like this is like, this man is absolutely disgusting.
Absolutely. And it sucks that evil like that can get quote unquote lucky in the moment. I know it caught up to him, but it's just like it caught up to him at a time after Kathy was already murdered. Like, why couldn't someone have seen it? A good Samaritan seen it or heard her or, you know, like why? And that's kind of that whole, like, I don't know. It's like you think that you're safe in numbers, but that I look at trails all the time and I'm like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable walking that. I never do if I'm alone, ever. Like, I just don't. And it's because it's stories like this. And Blake's like, oh, you're fine. It's like the afternoon, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Kathy Loreck, there you go. And there has been so many cases, like even the podcast that I recommend in our show notes. She is referencing a case while she's recording that podcast. There was a current case happening that they were investigating that is almost verbatim to what happened to Kathy. That happened to another mother of 5 in another state. And there's been more, and there's been more. And they're just jogging. They just want to go out fucking side.
Like, look at New York City, where those, like, just recently, those cases of women were just walking down the street and they were getting punched in the face by homeless.
Oh
by
my
homeless
God,
men.
yeah.
Like, it honestly.
Yeah, I don't want to like make that the like focus of like that's the problem, because it's not the problem. But like I did hear in another source that, or I think it was on the podcast, that he claimed that he heard her talking about the homeless problem and that, you know, it's such a problem and how disgusted she was with it, and he got enraged. But I'm sorry, this is too sexual in nature. I don't think. And also, like, what are you trying to prove her point?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like, are you trying to prove her point that you're the transient here and you're going to, like, give her something to be scared? Like, that's not it. Like, he has a whole history of drug abuse. The way he was acting, it sounds either like a mental break mixed with drugs. And I get it. Like, that's a huge, huge problem and people need help. But there's a lot of people with mental health that are not, like, psychopathic murderers. And the way he acted in that interrogation, he was together. He had it together enough. He's a psychopath.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ooh, Jesus.
Yeah. And also, like, from the reenactments, like, you see that this is a very popular trail from, like you said, like, from the amount of, like, extras and stuff that they had and, like, the witnesses and stuff. So it's not like someone would go on this trail being like, oh gosh, this might not be safe for me to walk, because there's a lot of people. And that's, like, that is the scary factor, like, of this. Thankfully, to the incredible accuracy of the eyewitnesses' accounts and the superb composite drawing that still feels like this was done in a hypnotherapy meditation setting, and the chance meeting with a cyclist who chain smokes, Frazier left plenty of forensic evidence behind to catch his ass.
Robert Frazier was tried and convicted of first-degree murder and rape. He was sentenced to death, another death penalty case.
We then hear from Kathy's son's words about Frazier, and it's exactly what we were all thinking.
He doesn't deserve to breathe another breath in this life. He doesn't.
If this crime had happened 30 years ago, Robert Ward Frazier very well could have gotten away with it. This case really came down to having that database in place and DNA testing and very quick acting police work.
So please tell me, are there any updates on this episode?
Well, finally, there was a Forensic Files episode that doesn't make me do a whole damn research paper on the case.
Word!
Yeah, this one was pretty much buttoned up. Other than, like, the things I added, I mean, they didn't, like, add much, you know, that was anything different that Forensic Files, like, got wrong. So good job on that. I will give you kudos, Forensic Files.
Work, Forensic Files.
I do have just a little update on the case and Robert Frazier. So Robert Frazier's defense attempted to appeal his death sentence under the California Racial Justice Act, which allows defendants to challenge their convictions or sentences if they can show that racial bias played a role in their case. In his appeal, Frazier's attorneys argued that there was jury selection bias. His defense claimed that a juror was improperly dismissed because of their views on capital punishment, potentially influenced by racial factors. They also claimed that there was a systemic bias in sentencing. His legal team suggested that racial bias may have affected how he was persecuted and sentenced. The CRJA allows courts to consider whether defendants of certain racial or ethnic backgrounds are disproportionately sentenced to harsher penalties. I'm very confused, but I cannot find any more information on this because isn't he just a white dude?
Right.
Like
I'm like, you're telling me all this and I'm like,
right. I'm
what?
I see your head like, and I'm like, no, I'm getting there. Trust me. Like, I'm very, very confused. Yeah, despite these arguments, the California Supreme Court upheld his death sentence in August 2024 in a 5-2 vote rejecting the claims. The 2 dissenting justices argued that the case should be paused for further review under the CRJA. Yeah, so the majority did not find sufficient evidence of a racial bias to overturn or delay his sentence.
I don't think so either.
I just genuinely don't have context to like fully understand how this guy thought this was like the route to take to get himself a new trial. So I'll just leave you with that. Like
of all things to make your case look better, like you're gonna use that.
I don't know. Like, is there another race I'm not seeing here? Because even though like he presents as a white dude too, so like even if he does have like 10% Native American, the bias of the jury would be like, you're a white dude.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to start it being like, I am 10% Native American. I am 3%. Like on my DNA, 23 and me, which I don't think was around that. You know, like I had a black relative 10, 20 decades ago. I don't know. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just now for our missing person case we would like everyone to know about.
From the Black and Missing Foundation's website is the case of Kelmani Lateeg. Kelmani was last seen on the night of March 17th, 2025 on the 2900 block of Elm Street in North Toledo, when she called her father around the early morning hours, expressing fear of being home alone and stating it seemed like someone else was trying to break into the house. Her father and cousin went to her home, stayed for about an hour, and left around 12:30 in the morning. When her grandmother returned home from an overnight shift, she found the house in disarray. The front door unlocked, a strong smell of gas from the stove, and Kelmani's glasses and keys still inside. Since then, no one has seen or heard of from Kelmani. Kelmani is 13 years old, she's female, she's biracial, and her complexion is light. Her height is 5'6", and her weight is 120 pounds. Her hair color is black, her hair length goes to her shoulders, and her eye color is brown. Someone must know something. Help us find Kelmani. You can also submit information to the Black and Missing Foundation's tip line at blackandmissinginc.com/tipline.
We will also post the case information on our Instagram at Forensic Files Podcast, but please go and follow at Black and Missing FDN and MMI Who Is Missing. Thank you. Whew. Man, we are like
powering
through these. It is like a marathon for podcasting.
I know.
That is what I feel like. Yeah, it's like if you want to learn about podcasting, just fucking
call us up.
Call us up because morning till night, it's all we're doing. Oh my God. So our next episode is season 1, episode 9 called Deadly Neighborhoods.
Oh.
And I super thought that said Deadly Neighbors at 4 a.m.
I did
this
too.
morning. So everything in my notes has to do with like, I really hope like we have no more dead neighbors because I've had some. So it's definitely not. It's definitely not the vibe. I got that so wrong. I'm not looking forward to the next episode at all. We will tell you more about it then.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. Deadly Neighborhoods.
Deadly Neighborhoods.
I'm excited.
I am not. Sounds like medical stuff, and that's not my vibe. If you like our podcast, please help us spread the word. Share on social media, share on Reddit, share everywhere, and drop a review and tell us what you think.
And if you don't like it, then you sure did stick around for a long time listening to something that you're trying to tell yourself that you don't like. Maybe just download the rest of them to really deep dive into why you feel that way. Make sure to hit those 3 little dots at the top and hit download. Reverse psychology, ChatGPT said it works.
Until the next one.
Bye.